Cool. Well, welcome, man. It's gonna be awesome. I'm really psyched.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited.
All
Thanks for
right.
having
So we got to clarify a few things first. Who is your favorite soccer team?
me. FC Barcelona by
Really?
far.
Uh, and
Big
who
soccer fan.
and who is your favorite athlete? I assume it's a soccer player.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, definitely my favorite soccer player is Messi. But I've been thinking about the favorite athlete thing recently, and I'm into tennis recently. I think I've told you that, and I'm just impressed by Djokovic. I just can't believe that guy. He's I mean he's just a machine. And as an athlete, like trying to persevere, no matter what age, and compete at the level he competes at, I think he's 38 years old. I'm just impressed by that guy. So it's a tough call. Somewhere between those two.
Yeah, and actually, Djokovic. Actually, I used to hate him, but he's actually become like a nice guy. He's hard to hate.
I'm with you. I used to hate him. I was always a Nadal fan, but recently I've come around.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do admire his resilience.
All right. So just fact check. So, what's your recollection of how we know each other?
Um, so we know each other from back, 2015, I think, in Boston, and we met through the search fund community. And as I reached out to pitch you at my fund that I was raising back in the day while I was doing my MBA in Boston. And that was our first interaction.
Yeah. So I think you told me I was your second investor. You're only one of two Americans, so I get that credit at least.
Yep. Yeah, for
And
sure.
we've kind of grown close over the years. And so, like, next question is like, what is this like unique hot steam sauna experience that you have in Guatemala? Like, what's that all about?
Yeah. That's something that I think every person in the world should experience. And as you guys as the students of Tom, I would push for, a field trip down to Guatemala. You won't regret it. So this artisanal, I guess, very traditional sauna in Guatemala, and like the real like rural part of Guatemala is an amazing experience. It's so if you've ever been in a sauna, like it has a bunch of benefits, but I feel like this way of doing it, which we didn't actually turn it on with Tom, but just like the whole procedure of lighting a fire behind a sort of like steel barrel that it goes in the inner part of a sort of like rock-built igloo, I would describe it. Which then you spray cold water on that and some eucalyptus, and have the steam kind of heat up the small room. And when you get really hot, you jump into a lake at night with the stars on top of you. Is a mystical experience. And it's something that I think I would love to do every day. Unfortunately, I can't, but try to do it as often as possible.
All I know is that like after we did all that, and then we're sitting in front of the bonfire, like we're telling each other secrets that I never thought I'd tell any other human being.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah. It leads to great conversations. That's one thing I'd say.
And I have
Not sure what it
one
is.
more kind of joke question, and that is like, what is the Mayan nose, and does it take 20 minutes to get up?
It does not. We still don't know. We still do not know how long it takes to get
We
up
didn't
there.
make it.
But we'll figure it we'll figure it out someday. It is not 20-minute hike. It's probably one of the most, I think, technical hikes I've performed, and I heard Tom say something similar. So and you try to reach a very strange peak, which has amazing views over the lake. You guys can Google probably that, and find some images of the Mayan nose at Lake Atitlan, and you'll see what we're talking about. But we got kind of fooled into into somebody telling us, you guys, this is a 20, 30 minute easy hike up to the nose. And we were down there. We were hiking for over 2 hours. Very, very steep hike. And we were nowhere near the famous nose. We had to turn back, unfortunately, but the experience was amazing. And we at least I was able to get Tom to commit to coming back and conquering the Mayan nose
Mayan
at some
knows,
point.
yeah. All right, so let's get serious with all that out of the way. So just a simple question. When you look back on your career so far, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, I I I think that's an easy one for me. I'd say I'm proud of the relationships I've been able to form. I'm proud of I'm proud of um work colleagues that have become close friends. I'm proud of investors that have become friends, mentors. You being one of them for sure. I'm proud of people that I hired as part-time employees who were trying to be working moms, who, have upgraded their lifestyle tremendously from, betting on me, basically, and the relationships and the bond that has formed. I'm proud of being able to work with as a business partner with one of my best friends, or two of my best friends from forever, and have a very tight-knit relationship and have work be a reason that we're now even more close than we were as teenagers, um, running around and doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So I'm proud of the relationships I've been able to form over my professional career and through my professional career.
Yeah, let's just jump to that. I mean, I think that's actually really unique about you, and something that I've come to as well. This idea, there's for the class, there's this group of guys who are actually disciples of Thorndike, who we're going to talk to on Monday, at Cedar Grove. They used to run the equity portfolio at Notre Dame, and they spun off on their own, and they have a really unique approach, where they say like basically it's an investment firm based on love. That's right on their website, and they invest permanently. They don't ever intend to sell anything, and they only invest in people they've known for 10 years who they trust implicitly and they're impressed by, and who they like, and who they are prepared to be partners with forever. Um, and I've come to that point of view. Like that's why, you'll see the only two people that I continue to work with are Juan and Pete Flick, who will also come on here. And it's because they fit those categories. One of the things that I think is so unique, and it was so cool to see up close and personal when I was down, whatever it was, 2 months ago, is that, as you stepped out from the CEO role, with our door company, and then built this kind of larger platform, you were able to like enlist your like best friends from like literally like, I don't know, grade school, it seemed like. And like, so the core group are people that you've known your whole life. Like, how did that happen? And like, why did that happen? And like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel tremendously like lucky and blessed, to be honest. It's not something that I designed and kind of was intentional about, or had a perfect plan to get to. I I think we so two of my friends I work really closely with. Uh, uh, Tom knows them. One is Ramiro. Like he's probably been my best friend since I can remember. And with him, we had conversations around doing business stuff together for a while, and we just, with him, I'd say we kind of cultivated the business relationship over years and matured the idea over the years, and just kind of knew that at some point we'd do something together, and so started viewing that relationship as something as a real possibility, and felt really comfortable with the way we worked together. But what I think was really important was when the time came to, you know, really make it official that we would be business partners. We actually had the tough conversations up front, and I think that's really important, right? So we said one thing that was very important, and is kind of the guiding principle of our business relationship is like similar to what you were saying. It's like, love first, right? So what that meant for us was like friendship first. And so we're gonna put our friendship before anything, right? So we're gonna set guidelines that are gonna protect our friendship over our business partnership, right? And make sure that that is what produces. I think there's a bunch of rules you can structure around that, but one of the key ones is just like we say we have to have the air clear all the time. And what that means is like when anything slightly bothersome pops up, with where any type of story we're making up in our head, which we're uncomfortable with, we just, we're very like direct, and we talk about it in the moment, right? And make sure we clear that and move forward, right? So we're really strict around that. And I mean, we've been official partners for almost 4 years now, and I think like it's worked. As I said, it's strengthened our bond, right? And then with Ian, which is another friend, also a friend from childhood, um, I was just lucky, man. Like he and I, we knew we had connection, we knew we had a good friendship, but when we started working together, it wasn't by design, it was more by, circumstance. And I think unintentionally we just put love first again, right? And we just said let's give each other the benefit of the doubt. Let's put love first. And he and I just kind of understood ourselves from the get-go, and have really strengthened our relationship as well through the years that we've been working together. So it's amazing, and I feel like tremendously lucky to be able to work with both of those guys. So yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I get to hang out with you guys, and like I can feel it. And just so the class knows, so I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we have limited time. So Juan originally bought this door company, which he grew as the CEO, and then when he wanted to kind of step out, he hired Romero to take over as CEO, and Ian
Ian.
Ian to take over as CEO, and then he and Romero are business partners on this kind of broader platform. Um,
Yep.
so, kind of following up on that, I love this thing that you said about not how, but who. And what do you mean by that?
Yeah. I didn't make that up. So it comes from a book. It's somewhere up there here on my bookshelf. The book is called Who Not How, right? The concept here is like, you face a lot of problems in your professional career and a lot of challenges, and you're constantly thinking about like how, right? Like, and the how has two limitations. One, it's a driver of fear, right? And it typically, for many, it's an inhibitor, right? It limits your potential. You start thinking about how and get stuck on the how and forget about the why, and forget about the guiding principle, the goal that you're pursuing, right? So you step back, and fear takes over. And so that's one thing. The other thing is from a more tactical perspective, and it's what the book says. It's just like there is somebody in the world that knows exactly how to do or how to fix the problem you're trying to fix, right? And what I liked about the book is one, it was an obvious statement, but a very practical insight into fostering relationships, right? So I'm all about relationships. The end goal for me is the bonds you form through life and through your professional career. And so I really like the tying the two concepts together of saying like if you can find somebody that can help you solve the problem, be it a specific a guy to do an errand, to run a task, or somebody to partner with to make you better at trying to solve the how, you're not only going to be more efficient, but you're going to develop a new bond. You're going to develop a new relationship, and you're going to It's just going to be more fun. So I try to, face problems, and the first question that comes to mind is not like how can me myself, the great, Superman in me fix it. My mind goes to like, so who knows how to do this better than me, and how can I get to him and figure out how to fix this problem or how to improve this issue. So it's a fun way framework to approach problems and to build new relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I thought was so instructive about it, and whether you're, freshman, sophomore in college, or whether you're 60 years old like me, is that I think, like, not to get too deep here, but like, I think uh, in our society, a lot of times, especially as men, like, we're supposed to figure all this shit out ourselves. And like, we in the last fireside chat, we were talking to the guy who founded Scratch Labs, and he was really clear about like the need to ask for help. And so
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
like I think that one of the things I admire the most about you is that you're incredibly talented and incredibly humble. And like that combination is so powerful because it means that you're completely open to like asking for help and building relationships with people who can get you to the finish line 1,000 times faster than if you just stuck your head down and tried to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so many of us
Yeah.
do. I mean, I do that all the time, and like it doesn't work. Like it's very inefficient, um,
Exactly. 100%.
and it's not as much fun. Like you said, like the fun is in the love. So,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
so in that regard, so who have been the most important mentors to you in this journey?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. So my dad for sure. I'm fortunate to have my dad be still present, and someone that I can, that I admire, that I can have deep conversations with, and at the same time that I can really be open with and learn from. So he's been, instrumental in navigating everything, right? From the get-go, from the start. And I'd also say my mentors are really in this, not to sound like and not to throw flowers at you, Tom, but definitely my investors. So and as you all know, Tom is one of them. I've been fortunate to, as I said at the beginning, to form really deep relationships with and bonds with my investors. And it's it's incredible because I'm very fortunate to have, done what I did through a model that uh, allows you to raise capital from a very limited group of individuals, and I was selective in that. But as we described at the start of this conversation, initially we had zero knowledge of each other with Tom and zero connections. And with many others of my investors, I had, some knowledge of who they were, but we had, no relationship at all as well. And through just, I guess, opening up, through being vulnerable, through allowing each one of ourselves, not just from my perspective and from my experiences, but they sharing also their vulnerabilities, their difficulties. It's something that we've done a lot with Tom. Just be open with each other. We've developed a relationship where it feels very comfortable to have any type of conversation and to try to be constructive in that conversation. So I'm fortunate to call my investors, not all of them, but most of them, my mentors and people that I go to where I don't feel like I have a need to report or to like show results or to and with whom I can have those tough conversations. So I wouldn't say I have many more mentors besides a core group of investors that I call business partners, that I call friends, who I'm fortunate to call mentors as well.
Yeah, we didn't know each other, and before you know, we're like in some freaking sauna in like some lake, volcanic lake in like the mountains of Guatemala, doing all kinds of crazy shit. Like I don't know
You
how that
never
happened,
know
but.
where life takes you. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to like your origin story a little bit because I want to watch time. But so you grew up in Guatemala. Just a minute about like what that was like, and then how you kind of made your way to University of Virginia, and yeah, what was growing up in Guatemala like?
Yeah. I love my country, man. Like I truly I'm a big ambassador from many perspectives. So I enjoyed my childhood here. I did spend and you know this I spent 4 years in Minnesota when I was like 4 years old, actually, as my dad did his MBA there and also spent some time working there. So I had some experience living in the States as a child, but grew up in Guatemala. You know, it has some benefits. You know, you have the lake, a beautiful lake 2 hours away. You have the beach 2 hours away. You have a beautiful colonial city an hour away. So I can say like I spent most of my weekends at some nice place, fortunately. So I was fortunate about that. And I spent a lot of time doing sports. I love I think Guatemala misses the competitive sports dynamics that the US has. So that's something that I would trade for. But apart from that, I was lucky to be close to my grandparents. I have three siblings, which were really close. So it was a really cool childhood. I was a soccer player for my, you know, I've played a lot of sports, but soccer was the one sport that I kind of uh, picked and went all in my high school years. And I actually tried out for the UVA soccer team because they weren't coming down to Guatemala to recruit. So I called them and I said, "How can I try out?" And I went to summer camp and fortunately I was invited to play on the team. Um, and yeah, that led me to Virginia, and I studied engineering there. Played for a couple of years for the team, and then actually had I was not able to play the full 4 years. I felt I had too much on my plate for a while there, so stepped out of the team and played club for my junior and senior year.
So
Um,
after UVA, you stepped into consulting and then Advent. Is that right?
yeah, I did some consulting and then I did private equity and then went to my MBA. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this for guys who are thinking about what to do right after college. Like, how was your experience doing consulting? We're losing you.
Doing consulting was I learned discipline and I learned a lot of really important tactical stuff. Uh, I learned to be gritty. I think I was already gritty, but that was made me a lot grittier. And I learned to take risks as well because I really wanted to, you know, I was surrounded by people that were really talented. So that's something that has been really important in my life. Like I try to surround myself all the time with people that are more talented than I am. That's my objective in life. Like if I'm never surrounded by people that I do not feel are pushing me, I start to feel uncomfortable, right? And so consulting really gave me that. Like I was pushed, man. I think I wasn't supposed to be there, but being there, I pushed myself to be there. I don't know if that makes sense, right? And so I wouldn't trade that. I was happy, and I feel I made the right call of you know saying you know 3 4 years almost. You know this has been enough, and I'm ready for something else. And uh, and yeah, that led me to the rest of the next step of my career, right?
So
But for,
let's go to like post HBS Harvard Business School. You come up with this crazy idea that you're going to do a search fund in Guatemala. Like, how did that come to you?
it made so much sense when when I was back in business school. Like it was like why would this be crazy? Why would this look crazy to anybody? and I think that's instructive. Like I I tend to trust my gut. I and I don't overthink things. And that was what happened there. Like I said, yeah, nobody's done it in Central America. This is a model that hasn't, really proven out to be successful in in outside of the US and Mexico, but it makes a lot of sense to me and it just feels right. I'll also give credit to my wife who she was like all in also. Like she was my fiance there and we were getting married and she was like all in on like, yeah, let's take up this risk. You've described it to me and it makes a ton of sense. And if you get people to back you, it makes even more sense. So try it out. And I think that's kind of there's this concept in a Jim Collins book, Good to Great, which is a great book. I'd highly suggest all of you read it. And he talks about bullets and cannonballs, and he says like the analogy is like if you're like trying to bring down a ship, like and there's a bunch of fog, like you'll typically shoot some bullets instead of shooting your cannonballs first, because if you hear that there's, that you hit something, then you'll shoot the cannonball. I love that analogy. I've always applied it, and my approach to the search fund back then was like, so my bullets were like, I'll test this out with investors, and if investors back me, then I'll do the cannonball, which was, taking the plunge. And my first bullets, one of the first bullets was with you, Tom, and it apparently hit something, and your backing of the project was one of the things that made me really go all in. But there was a bunch of trusting your gut and just feeling like I don't have much to lose here. Let's take the risk.
And so, just why go back to Guatemala?
So yeah, that was obviously really important. Like we had offers to I could go back to Mexico and do consulting or private equity. As I said, like I love my country. And we were thinking about raising a family with Daniela, my wife, and we said, we want our kids to grow up in Guatemala. We love that place. And so that was basically it. Like and then I started looking for justifications as to why this sort of entrepreneurship through the search fund model made sense in a country like Guatemala. And we found a bunch. Like the country was ripe for this sort of investment, and so one thing led to another, and it felt right at that moment. But for sure, yeah, Guatemala was the country that we picked as a couple to go back to and to spend, the early part of our marriage there.
So 6 months in, you find this door company, and just so the class knows, I just want to try and shortcut the conversation a little bit, but like the overall idea is that in Central America, there's a boom in terms of trying to build homes for people, and so there's this kind of macro trend which is very positive for the construction industry, and so that was part of what made this particular company attractive. But just talk about like the first 2 or 3 years after we bought the business and kind of what it was like to be a first-time CEO,
Yeah, I was a CEO. I was 26, 27
which
years
is
old.
crazy, man. That's crazy. I heard that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, bought this
Yeah.
company, you're 26 years old.
Yeah, and yeah, I think the average age of the employees was probably over 40. So I was in a weird position, right? But again, I was surrounded by I think I was fortunate to find a team that was decent and a bunch of at least experienced individuals that pushed me. That I felt like the pressure of having to perform at that level and having 3 or 4 years of experience and none building doors or selling doors, no concept at all as to how that worked. Was another way of raising the bar, right? And I heard all of you are athletes, and this may make sense to you. Like, if you play a team or an opponent that is playing at a much lower level than you, you tend to bring your level down to that level, and the opposite is true as well, and that applies in business as well, right? So, I and I didn't think a lot. I didn't think too much about it either. Like as when I play a very tough game in any sport, and I don't tend to think about like how good this guy is or this team is. Just try to play at the highest level I can. And so when I started, that was my mentality. I'm just gonna play. Like I'm just gonna play and try to figure it out. And one thing I'd say I recall and is a very vivid memory is I my philosophy is trust first. So you come into this company, you're now the CEO. You have a bunch of people that you now lead. They all come from the prior administration, and you can pick two paths, right? You can either say I distrust everybody, and I'm going to operate and run this company from a position of fear and distrust, or you can pick the way of like I'll trust, and then I'll trust, I'll love, and then I'll verify, and I'll figure out from that path. And I picked the latter. I told everybody like, guys, you have my trust from the get-go. And you can lose it, or we can continue to work together. And I think that was that was key. And I've seen this play out with other searcher CEOs or people that acquire businesses and become the CEO very early on. And they pick the path of distrusting and of being like very over like protective and like just micromanaging, and you tend to develop a culture of protecting each other, of not being open, and that in the long term I've seen that cause a lot of damage. I experienced some my path was not perfect. Like I had some individuals that I trusted, and that was a big mistake. They ended up being people that were not supposed to be trusted and that had to leave the team, and that caused some damage. But the majority, um, it was the right decision, because in the majority of cases that built a good culture that allowed me to operate with a lot more trust from them, and it wasn't such a tumultuous kind of first couple of years running the company. So that's what I'd say as to the first couple of years.
So, from my side, one of the things that was extraordinary watching, like in most situations with search fund CEOs, there's a kind of like you buy the company, you realize it's really not as good as you thought. There's like a dip, and then there's kind of a rebuild. With Juan, it was like, you know, there was no dip. I mean, I felt like things really. I mean, I know you felt like you were figuring stuff out for 2 or 3 years, but like the business did awesome. And so, like, I guess the next question is like in most search funds, the idea is to sell the business. Like, basically buy a business cheap that's not breakable, do some things right to grow the business, and then, 3 to 5 years later, sell it. And in your case, you chose not to do that. So can you talk about that decision?
Yeah, yeah. I 5 years in, it felt like you finally get a grip of stuff, right? Like, yeah, I see like how investors only saw like the yearly results, and it was like things are going well, so everything is going well. As a CEO or as an executive, you feel like you can't believe the results. It's like there's so much shit going on here that how are things going so positively in terms of results? By year five, you feel like, okay, now I see how what I do has an effect on results and how I can use the inputs to generate the output. So, and at that point in time, for a whole bunch of other reasons, we also had a decision to make as to, if I wanted to continue running the business or if we should bring somebody else, and not to get too much into the details. But at the end of the day, we had the option of like selling, which was a traditional route, or figuring out a way to hold this for a longer term. And I just felt like, as I said, everything was just starting to from my perspective, everything was just getting started. Like we were just about to make real things happen. So selling at that point made no sense at all to me. Like, so I did everything in my power to figure out how to not sell. And yeah, so we chose the path of, going long term, and using this term that we love with Tom that's called compounding, right? Which just means like, once you generate returns, bring them back in and make sure those returns compound and you play the long-term game and you'll end up with something that started minuscule and then becomes huge and over, decades. And so the most important part about making that happen was the trust that I had developed and the good relationships that I had developed with my investors. If it weren't for that, nothing of what that has become, the door company that we now own, would be possible. So from the relationships, from the bonds that we had uh, formed, we were able to have smart conversations without egos getting involved, without short-term kind of effects trying to fog the real decisions that we had to make. And so we came up and said, we're not going to sell the business. We're going to hire a new CEO and we're going to hold this for the long term. So,
So I'm going to get to the kind of broader strategy as the last point, but like one other question I wanted to ask before we get there is just so as the class knows. Juan bought a second business. The second business creates the like the metal box for circuit boards in homes as part of another construction related business. Literally like the metal box. And so one thing I thought was really interesting when I was just down there and we were touring around the factory. Well, I was telling me that like when he was doing due diligence on that company, um, one thing he couldn't believe is that like they had zero defects, like zero returns, which is like unheard of in like a manufacturing setting. And so like I guess the question around that, and so it was really about the pride of the employees, like and like literally like these employees like it's such a great job that like when there's an opening, like they bring in their brother, like that it's like they're not gonna let outsiders get this great job. And so I guess the question to you is like in terms of like your employees, I mean, it seems to me like one of the aspects of this that's the coolest to me is that you're creating economic development in your own country and you're creating all these jobs for these people that are life changing. And kind of how do you think about that? And how do you think about your culture in terms of making sure that all these employees are happy and are performing at the highest level. And what part does that all play in the calculus here?
yeah, it's an amazing feeling. Like, you know, we employ through the two businesses like almost like 700 people, and it's not like these are not huge businesses, but uh these are heavy these are manufacturing businesses that have, a significant amount of manual labor, and that's the way things are done down here. But I love the feeling of like, yeah, those are 700 employees, but there's so many, like we're actually affecting 700 families, and each family has, what, three or four individuals. So you really think about the effect that you're having with providing this type of opportunities to individuals that come to the plant every day, that do a very important job, that perform at a very like high standard. And again, what we try to do, and the way I try to lead these businesses or try to influence the now CEOs of the companies to lead these businesses, is through the same philosophy of like, let's just have a really high standard all the time, and let's try to make sure that everybody that's in the plant that's producing these metal boxes or everything just has a really, really high standard, and let's try to maintain that forever. And as long as we have these individuals that want to raise that standard, that want to play at that high level, we're happy to provide, not just the opportunity, but a tremendous amount of benefits that, it may be a bit more expensive for the company to provide and to give them like health insurance, which is not something that is an obligation here in Guatemala, but we give that to them for free, and we provide it for their family as well, because it feels great to just have a tremendous impact on a whole bunch of people through a through something that is also generating value to us as investors and owners of the company. So it's just an amazing way of feeling like you're really impacting the world through business. So it's really cool.
So I'm up against time though. So just a minute about kind of your vision for the future and what you're trying to build.
Yeah, trying to compound relationships, I think, is the way I'd say. We're trying to we're trying to build what we've been talking about with Tom today and with you guys today, and just make those highlights huge, right? So trying to find more talented individuals that become friends, that become uh, brothers of this community that we're forming. We're trying to find businesses through which we can impact another 1,000 more families. We're trying to develop relationships with business owners that come to trust us and then want us to own their business. And so they sell their business to us and they either partner with us or stay on as potential board of directors and we want to have fun all the way through, right? That's my vision for the future.
So if you were to give these guys, so these are all freshman and sophomore athletes, mostly soccer players, unfortunately, some basketball players and rowers. Um, what would your advice to them be?
My advice, guys. I think it's like you're onto something. You're onto something great. Like sports are a tremendous way to learn to do business. Sports and athleticism in general has so many lessons for you to learn that will have a tremendous impact in your lives, in your professional lives, or in your athlete lives if you continue down the athlete path. We talked a bunch of we talk a bunch of these lessons with Tom, and share them, and they're incredibly like interconnected. Like you hear about like how rowing teaches you lessons in life, and I feel like I learned that through soccer as well. So my advice is pay attention. My advice is notice. My advice is, use that competitive spirit as you transition into whatever role you want to transition in the professional career, right? And also just as I said, don't be afraid to seek advice, especially at your age, at the stage you are. Don't be afraid of asking for help. Don't be afraid of asking for advice. And that ties into the question that Tom made me like about the who, not how, right? Make sure you always look for your who's and develop relationships with them. So that would be my advice for you guys.
Cool. So we'll go to questions now. So if you have a question, raise your hand.
Yes. Yeah, the door business, one, it was riding a tremendous wave, right? And there's this saying, I think it's Warren Buffett that says, when the tide rises, all ships float, right? So we were definitely onto a trend that was going to boom, and that was very easy to see. Like it's not rocket science. Like there's a huge housing deficit in Central America, and there were a bunch of homes that need to be built over the next, couple of decades, and every home needs a door, I think, as far as I know, not being disrupted by AI yet or anything. So onto a tremendous trend, a good wave. One, but we also saw that this company was by far the market leader. Like the market share this company had, when we acquired was probably 70% in Central America. In this specific, like high volume, I guess, low income housing, doors for the low income housing segment. So, having that amount of market leadership is important, and it allows for many positive things to do with the business. So one is pricing. So we saw an opportunity to improve pricing that would improve the profitability profile of the company. So definitely that, and also a diverse set of suppliers, which were kind of not under contract, but had some reasons to be loyal to this company and to continue to be loyal for many years. So I guess, sticky supplier relationships was also a highlight that we saw in the business when we acquired, and a bunch of other stuff. But those were the main things that I recall.
Cool. Nice.
Wow, that's a great question. Back in the day, I'm going to be completely honest, and Tom knows this. Like back in the day, and when we met with Tom, I was not aware, as probably you guys are, of what I was looking for in terms of the relationships that I wanted to build out. I was fortunate to I guess relatively quickly figure out what I was looking for when I partnered with people, right? So I'll answer it in an unfair way. Like, what would I look for in investors today? And there's another Warren Buffett quote that says, do business with people you trust and admire, right? And that's just like I can't repeat that enough. Like that's so important, guys. Like you have to find people that you trust and admire, and all the time, and do not do business with people you don't trust and admire. So those are the main characteristics that I look for in investors, and I do think I definitely unconsciously was looking for that when I raised my first fund. But and to your second question as to what I tried to portray, um, grittiness, I guess, was the main thing. I was trying to show them that I do what it would take to find a business and to acquire a business, but that I was also smart about it. Like that I hadn't that I wasn't doing this without a some sort of knowledge. So I think the combination of both is also really important, especially in I guess in the finance world. If you just show like grittiness and I'll do everything, like nowadays you'll find this like you should get a sense of like I'm not sure if you're going to do this the right way or if you're not going to get into trouble because of your grittiness and determination. So I was very like, for example, I said I've done private equity before. I ran an investigation of small companies in Central America through Advent, the firm I worked for. This is the work I performed. This is what we found. These are the statistics. And oh, and by the way, I've done all these stuff before that have shown that when I want something, I tend to get it. And so I'm going to replicate that again as I perform this model. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll piggyback on that because I was the other side of that meeting. So like I just remember we were sitting on some bench outside the Charles Hotel in Central in Harvard Square, and like this guy shows up, and he's really smart and he's really humble, and like there's something in my gut that said like, you know, I want to hang out with this guy. I want to see where this goes, and that was it. Like it was there was no great thought process going on. And I think sometimes like that the moral of that story is like sometimes you do just need to take a risk. And like, this amazing relationship and this amazing platform has come out of it that has been like 1,000 times greater than certainly I could have ever imagined based on like that 1 hour conversation, 9 years ago or whatever the hell it was.
I came up with I'm not like not one I don't have one that's specific, but Batman The Dark Knight came up
Wow.
as one of
Wow.
my favorite movies. Like
It's a good one. It's a good one.
I don't know if that would be my favorite, but that's the one that came to mind, man, to be
All
honest.
right. Last word. So if you got one word that you're gonna leave these guys with, what would it be?
Yeah, the word is peace. Not like in peace out, like I'm leaving, like peace, like guys strive for peace, like peace in your soul, like peace internally. Like I love that word, and it's just the one thing that came up when I thought about the word.
That's awesome. Like
Yeah.
you're like one of the most high achieving guys who I think has inner peace, like has like in your soul. So
Thank you, Tom. Thanks.
anyhow, go buy a business, and I'll talk to you soon.
This was awesome, guys. Best of luck with your semester and enjoy this class. This is an amazing opportunity with Tom. So,
All
and
right,
thanks, Tom, for having me.
all right, man.
Take care,
Thank you.
man.
Love you, buddy. Talk to you.
See you guys.